something, the time has come. I cannot wait. Here we go. In 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's do it!
Hello. I'm going to read to you from chapter 6, in which Harry, Ron and Ginny go to see Fred and George's joke shop in Diagon Alley for the first time. "This is brilliant," said Ron, and he and Harry led the way into the shop. It was packed with customers. Harry could not get near the shelves. He stared around, looking up at the boxes piled to the ceiling. Here were the skiving snack boxes that the twins had perfected during their last unfinished year at Hogwarts. Harry noticed that the nosebleed nugget was the most popular, with only one battered box left on the shelf. There were bins full of trick wands, the cheapest merely turning into rubber chickens or pairs of pants when waved. The most expensive beating the unwary user around the head and neck. Boxes of quills, which came in self-inking, spell-checking, and smart answer varieties. A space cleared in the crowd, and Harry pushed his way towards the counter, where a gaggle of delighted 10-year-olds was watching a tiny little wooden man slowly ascending the steps to a real set of gallows, both perched on a box that read, "Reusable hangman, spell it or he'll swing." Patented daydream charms? Hermione had managed to squeeze through to a large display near the counter and was reading the information on the back of a box, bearing a highly coloured picture of a handsome youth and a swooning girl who was standing on the deck of a pirate ship. "One simple incantation and you will enter a top-quality, highly realistic 30-minute daydream, easy to fit into the average school lesson and virtually undetectable. Side effects include vacant expression and minor drooling. Not for sale to under 16s. "You know," said Hermione, looking up at Harry, "that really is extraordinary magic." "For that, Hermione," said a voice behind them, "you can have one for free." A beaming Fred stood before them, wearing a set of magenta robes that clashed magnificently with his flaming hair. "How are you, Harry?" They shook hands. "Come on, I'll give you a tour." Harry followed Fred towards the back of the shop, where he saw a stand of card and rope tricks. "Muggle magic tricks," said Fred happily, pointing them out, "for freaks like Dad, you know, who love Muggle stuff. It's not a big earner, but we do fairly steady business. They're great novelties. Oh, here's George." Fred's twin shook Harry's hand energetically. "Giving him the tour? Come through to the back, Harry, that's where we're making the real money. Pocket anything, you, and you'll pay in more than galleons," he added warningly to a small boy who hastily whipped his hand out of the tub labelled "Edible Dark Marks. They'll make anyone sick." George pushed back a curtain beside the Muggle tricks, and Harry saw a darker, less crowded room. The packaging on the products lining these shelves was more subdued. "We've just developed this more serious line," said Fred. "Funny how it happened. You wouldn't believe how many people, even people who work at the Ministry, can't do a decent shield charm," said George. "Of course, they didn't have you teaching them, Harry." "That's right. Well, we thought shield hats were a bit of a laugh, you know, challenge your mate to jinx you while wearing it and watch his face when the jinx just bounces off. But the Ministry bought 500 for all its support staff, and we're still getting massive orders. So we've expanded into a range of shield cloaks, shield gloves. I mean, they wouldn't help much against the unforgivable curses, but for minor to moderate hexes or jinxes. And then we thought we'd get into the whole area of defence against the dark arts, because it's such a good money spinner," continued George enthusiastically. "This is cool. Look, instant darkness powder. We're importing it from Peru. Handy if you want to make a quick escape. And our decoy detonators are just walking off the shelves. Look," said Fred, pointing at a number of weird-looking black hooter-type objects that were indeed attempting to scurry out of sight. You just drop one surreptitiously, and it'll run off and make a nice loud noise out of sight, giving you a diversion if you need one. Handy, said Harry, impressed. Here, said George, catching a couple and throwing them to Harry. A young witch with short blonde hair poked her head around the curtain. Harry saw that she, too, was wearing magenta staff robes. There's a customer out here looking for a joke cauldron, Mr. Weasley, she said. Harry found it very odd to hear Fred and George called Mr. Weasley, but they took it in their stride. Right you are, Verity, I'm coming, said George promptly. Harry, you help yourself to anything you want, all right? No charge. I can't do that, said Harry, who had already pulled out his money bag to pay for the decoy detonators. You don't pay here, said Fred firmly, waving away Harry's money. But you gave us our start-up loan. We haven't forgotten, said George. Take whatever you like, and just remember to tell people where you got it if they ask. George swept off through the curtain to help with the customers, and Fred led Harry back into the main part of the shop to find Hermione and Ginny still poring over the patented Daydream charms. Haven't you girls found our special Wonder Witch products yet? Asked Fred. Follow me, ladies. Near the window was an array of violently pink products, around which a cluster of excited girls was giggling enthusiastically. Hermione and Ginny both hung back, looking wary. There you go, said Fred proudly. Best range of love potions you'll find anywhere. Ginny raised an eyebrow sceptically. Do they work? Certainly they work, for up to 24 hours at a time, depending on the weight of the boy in question and the attractiveness of the girl, said George, reappearing suddenly at their side. But we're not selling them to our sister, he added, becoming suddenly stern. Not when she's already got about 5 boys on the go from Whatever you've heard from Ron is a big fat lie, said Ginny calmly, leaning towards a small pink pot. What's this? Guaranteed 10-second pimple vanisher, said Fred. Excellent on everything from boils to blackheads. But don't change the subject. Are you, or are you not, currently going out with a boy called Dean Thomas? Yes, I am, said Ginny. And last time I looked, he was definitely 1 boy, not 5. What are those? She was pointing at a number of round balls of fluff in shades of pink and purple, all rolling around the bottom of a cage and emitting high-pitched squeaks. Pygmy puffs, said George. Miniature puffskins, we can't breed them fast enough. So what about Michael Corner? I dumped him, he was a bad loser, said Ginny, putting a finger through the bars of the cage and watching the pygmy puffs crowd around it. They're really cute. They're fairly cuddly, yes, conceded Fred. But you're moving through boyfriends a bit fast, aren't you? Ginny turned to look at him, her hands on her hips. There was such a Mrs. Weasley-ish glare on her face that Harry was surprised Fred didn't recoil. It's none of your business. And I'll thank you, she added angrily to Ron, who had just reappeared at George's elbow, laden with merchandise, not to tell tales about me to these 2. That's 3 galleons, 9 sickles, and a nut, said Fred, examining the many boxes in Ron's arms. Cough up. I'm your brother, and that's our stuff you're nicking. 3 galleons, 9 sickles. I'll knock off the nut. But I haven't got 3 galleons, 9 sickles. You better put it all back then, and mind you put it on the right shelves. Ron dropped several boxes, swore, and made a rude hand gesture at Fred that was unfortunately spotted by Mrs. Weasley, who had chosen that moment to appear. If I see you do that again, I'll jinx your fingers together, she said sharply. Mum, can I have a pygmy puff? Said Ginny at once. A what? Said Mrs. Weasley warily. Look, they're so sweet. Mrs. Weasley moved aside to look at the pygmy puffs, and Harry, Ron and Hermione momentarily had an unimpeded view out of the window. Draco Malfoy was hurrying up the street alone.